All right. And we are live. So I am so honored and thrilled to I'm actually like getting like I don't know hype off my own course like having you and Lauren Ramsey and Ellen. I'm like, listen, if you all don't get in on this course, because I think that Dr. AJ, with your work in the world, as a social psychologist, and I would say cultural convener, you're helping people with the missteps. And I think that it's super important for those of you who are tuning in, even if you have been working in the wellness space as a personal coach, as a life coach, as a healer, as a consultant for decades, there's always new things to learn. And I think that in this season that we're in, it's super important to be culturally conscious. And as PhD elect Lauren Ramsey mentioned too, cultural humility. So without further ado, Dr. AJ, let the people know what they need to be working on.
First of all, thank you so much, Berhenda, for having me on here and for, inviting me to be a part of your course. It is so critically necessary, and I'm like so hyped up about it. Like I can't wait for it to start because I'm just like, all right, let's dig in, because it's so needed. So my name is Dr. Aparajita Jeedigunta. And I'm going to say it one more time so you can learn how to pronounce it. Aparajita Jeedigunta. And it is an ancient Sanskrit name. I am an Indian American person from the Indian subcontinent with my ancestral heritage in India going back few thousand years actually. And I am a naturalized citizen here in the United States of America. And I do diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness work, as well as whole person, conscientious leadership development work. And we can get into what all of that is because I've sort of had to create a lot of these terms because I didn't like what was happening.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of not liking what's happening, there's a critical necessity for attribution. I think first and foremost, like making sure that we're properly citing not just sources, but also giving credit to the cultures in which we have benefited from, right? Because when we look at the wellness, I mean, let's just be honest, it is predominantly people of color and Eastern philosophy that the West is now adopting because we understand that our system is flawed. Well, let me take that back. It's running well for those that are benefiting from the system, but as we're trying to really become, and I love that you said whole person, as we are attempting to become whole people, we are adopting these practices of wellness that are steeped in really your culture. And so, why is it so important that we give proper attribution to our teachers, our influencers, and the work that we participate in?
That's a great question. And to put it really simply, because it is the right thing to do ethically. Because if you are anybody that says that you want to walk the walk toward equity, toward inclusion, toward belongingness, toward being this like super conscious, in quotes, woke person, it you can't not, because if you don't attribute, if you don't give credit where credit is due, then you are not just misrepresenting your learning and authenticity, which then diminishes your value as the coach. You are also perpetuating the same systems which have continued to harm these so-called minority groups, who are not actually minority, by the way, but that's a whole different thing,
Right.
but have been historically marginalized. You are assuming their voice for them. You are assuming my voice for me instead of giving me the space to have my voice.
Oh my gosh. So this leads me to my next question, because I noticed, like, even, you know, for myself, trying to maneuver this system, some of the wellness practices that I've participated in have been, for example, meditation, yoga, balancing my chakras. But I noticed that um, in many cases, these spaces are very white. I have not gone to a yoga practice um, where there's an Indian person facilitating. I have had the benefit of doing some courses, some coursework around yoga with women of color, and even in my Reiki practice, I initiated with a woman of color. But it still was like I had to be conscientious about, like, I had to do a little more work. But what happens when, and of course it's not just the skin color, because I want people to really understand that it's not just about, like, well, it's a skin color thing, but I think it's even deeper than that. It's the soul of a thing, the anatomy of a thing. What gets lost when we are not regularly consulting with, sharing power with these cultures that are, for example, yoga and the chakra system, that are benefiting us?
Another great question. Really, really powerful question. And it actually has I'm gonna go two ways with it.
Okay.
First, I'm gonna start off with as business women, as entrepreneurs. When we are not crediting, when we are not acknowledging where this comes from, we are really, again, going back to perpetuating these systems that only benefit a few and have historically harmed us. So we are not practicing equity. We are not practicing the same core of humanity that, as coaches and healers and consultants in this wellness space, that we claim to be. So we are actually going counter to that if we don't acknowledge it, because I'll give you an example by what I mean by that. Yoga, meditation, all of these, even the use of names or different languages, however you want to look at this, these are actually the same things that were used to other us. You know, and like, when my mom came to the US, she stopped wearing her bindi. She took out her nose ring because those were points of othering. So if we don't give credit now, we will never repair the damage that has already been done. And when you think about social justice or equity, that's what it's about, is that it's not about you feeling bad for what your ancestors did, or, you know, no matter who they are, because my ancestors weren't all sunshine and roses either. I'm sure everybody has skeletons in their closet. It's about realizing that you get to do the right thing moving forward, because it's about meeting the needs equitably now, understanding that there wasn't that equity before, and that it was actually used to harm. So in that sense, you know, it takes away kind of like the retributive, punitive sense of justice. It makes it just, it makes it fair, you know? And so that's from the business end of it. From the kind of the experiential end of it, it is very, very important that we recognize that, you know, again, I'm going to use an example here, for instance, with yoga. I don't have a yoga certification. I've just grown up with it as a part of my regular life, my whole life.
Yeah.
I don't need a certification to tell me that nearly 4 decades of my lived experience means more than even a 200-hour retreat. You know? And same thing with chakras. I grew up in it. And as someone who grows up in it, the power of insight that comes from the lived experiences, you can't get that from anybody it doesn't matter how many books they've read. It doesn't matter how many retreats they've gone on. None of that matters. You know, it would be like me wanting to learn Black history and going to a white person. I'm sure they can give me all the dates. I'm sure they can give me all the terms. I'm pretty sure they're going to butcher some of the terms, because that's a given. But at the same time, I'm also sure that they would not be able to tell me what the group experience of the group that lived through a particular thing was. Right. In that, we are, you know, so when we don't step into the space where we really go to the people with the lived experiences and the knowledge, you know, the people, because there are a lot of people, like I have tons of friends who grew up in the, you know, Indian culture, know about chakras, but they didn't actually then take the time to learn more about it and to figure out like what's what. And in fact, now they go to white energy healers who don't know anything about it. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know? So it is important for us to go to people who have the lived experiences and the interest and the capacity and the drive to continue that education, to give you that, again, whole person, well-rounded perspective. Because why would you want to learn from somebody who's not a whole person? I mean, why would you?
And I think that you bring up something so important because of colonization, the very things that make you a whole person, such as knowledge of self, was demonized, outlawed, and if practiced, could be met with certain death. And because so many generations have been removed from it, you almost have to look outside yourself for yourself. And I think that that's a very dangerous dynamic to do that to a person. And I love what you said about making sure that things are just, because now there's an opportunity going forward. Of course, we can't go backward and undo. But in this time and space, in 2020, we can begin to make amends and make things right. And I love Brene Brown's like sort of explanation of power. This is not power over, it's not power through, it's power with. And I think that any respectable historian or person that's in authority about, you know, history would say, here's what I know, but let me introduce you to, let me put you in touch with, right? You know, here's the person's work that you need to follow. Here has been a teacher in my life, and then citing sources. Because yes, I know there are plenty woke white folks out here that can quote Malcolm X probably better than I, but they would be totally remiss if they didn't go back to, obviously he's no longer with us, but if you don't go back to the Shabazz estate, if you're not pointing to Alex Haley, if you're not pointing to, right, the nation, or,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Like, we're talking about, a revolutionary here, or, a person's life. It would be irresponsible to then assume the role as the gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you actually really, when you talked about Malcolm X and, I'm going to give you another example. People idealize and idolize Gandhi
Mm-hmm.
as this like beacon of peace and the Ahimsa movement and da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Gandhi is also the same dude, or was also the same dude, who, being a minority, still marginalized Africans
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to get
Okay,
more
so look, we're going there. I didn't know we were gonna go. Okay, we're going there, and
We're
we're here.
going there.
We're
We
going
have
there.
to go there.
Yeah,
That's
we're going
what,
there.
but we have to go into these spaces to realize, first of all, for most people who are out there idolizing Gandhi, learn how to spell his name right. You
Mm.
know, learn how to spell his name right, because most people, they say Gandhi, and because of the way it's spelled, they say Ghandi. That's not how it's spelled. In fact, the way, if you're spelling it Ghandi, that is one of the worst cuss words known to human language. And I'm pretty sure all of us can think about what that cuss word is. It begins with a mo.
Yes,
I'll leave it at that.
yeah, and nobody says it better than Samuel Jackson. I'm sorry. I
Right? Exactly.
just have to. I'm like, woo. I just feel like my whole life just got.
So in many ways, I actually chuckle when people misspell it that way, because he actually was not all that woke of a person, again, Gandhi. So I'm like, actually, this is an accurate description, but it's still misnamed. So things like that, like, just understanding the whole, like, even with our leaders, even with our revolutionaries,
That's right.
understanding that they're human beings, that they're flawed, that we are imperfect, because when we don't do that, and this is especially for, people that are coming from outside of the culture, or actually anything, there's we tend to fall into the trap of, because I'm representing some other culture, or because I'm representing something outside of me, it has to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect.
And see, that's colonization right there, the idea of perfection.
Yeah.
That's another indicator that it's still alive, prevalent, and well. And I love that you talked about the exalted leader, right? Like, we have a tendency to exalt our leaders. People do get up in arms when we talk about, MLK having, affairs, Bob Marley, having a small harem, right? There's the other side. And even within, social justice work, and that's a whole other topic, but, there's still sexism, that exists even within, social justice rankings. There's still men who do not want women at the table, or LGBTQ. Like, we don't talk about all the intersections that are at play. And I think that really fragments the wholeness, and it fragments forward movement when we are not inclusive, and when we expect perfection. I think it just takes, again, a humble heart and an open mind and a willing spirit to do this work.
Absolutely. And that's why I brought it up, right? Because I really wanna like underline, highlight, box that idea of cultural humility, that at the end of the day, when it comes to your individual culture that you're expressing, even if it's like a whole combination of all of these other cultures, that's okay. Understand, but when we that question of who do you want to be when you grow up, or who are your role models, and we bring in all of these exalted leaders, and we kind of idealize them in our heads as these like perfect people. None of them are perfect. We're not going to be perfect. Don't get that God complex thinking you are going to be. You have to be humble. You have to, for me, even having studied Sanatana Dharma for what, near over, oh gosh, 15 years at this point. I just aged myself. I can't believe it's been that long. And like, studying these chakras and everything, you will never see me claim that I am some kind of an expert.
That's right.
With all of this lived experience, and with all of this, I've maybe scratched the surface, and I have infinitely more to learn.
Hmm.
Not just
Oh,
from
yeah.
my culture, but from every other practitioner out there too.
That's right. That's right. And I believe that, my Reiki master, when I went through initiation, so shout out to Adela Nieves. She went through, I think, maybe 5 or 6 other practitioners. I mean, yes, she went through it, but she went through it again. And she said each practitioner offered her something else that she didn't get from the previous practitioner. And I remember even going to the African American Museum in DC, and still, like, I grew up in a household with the Africana Encyclopedia and, Up You Mighty People and like all of it, right? Like all of the things. My mom, was a revolutionary out here with Michael X, just getting in all kind of trouble and integrating and freedom, right? But still, I'm learning so much more, and I'm like, why aren't these names, widely held? And well, I mean, I know why. I know why they're not.
Yeah.
But I still feel a sense of, again, yeah, humility and sometimes grief and sadness because of what I don't know. And I do feel that there's a responsibility, because I could keep blaming the system, or I could take personal responsibility and go and seek gurus, teachers to help me fill in the gaps of the places that, I don't know. And people like you, like, I love that you're so patient with me when I ask questions and things that I don't know, and like really walk me through things. And if you don't know something, like, I'll be right back. Let me go ask. And I think that that's what's so important and special about this container, is that we're all going to come into this one way. And it is my prayer that we leave out better than when we came into this container, but we will be held and we will have accountability and your support, so that we're not appropriating, but yes, in that space of appreciation, because it does help move forward when you can say, my teacher, I learned, I studied, but let me offer this to you and let me tell you where I got it from. Because I spoke with a group not too long ago of wellness practitioners, and one of the participants is an herbalist, and she was telling me that there were certain herbs that have great medicinal usages that belong to indigenous cultures that have been outlawed. And now that it's cool or in, to go a more homeopathic way, now these herbs are, and it's like a whole generation, because they were outlawed, a whole generation of people have not been acknowledged, have been demonized. Their own culture has been weaponized against them. But now that it's okay to practice it again, the attribution has been lost, because, as you know, for people of color, a lot of times our history is oral. So there's certain things that you will never be able to find in a book or through Google. And I'm the biggest fan of the Oracle, aka Google, but it's just it's not.
It's true.
It's just not there. So, as you know, so like we can do this all night.
I know, right?
I'm just, again, humble that you are joining us on this journey. So, if you could leave us just with some final words and a teaser of an offering that you have about what to expect in the sacred container that you're going to be holding for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, here's where I come from. So, especially when it comes to all of this chakra work and, energy stuff, which, interestingly enough, you were one of the people who sort of like pulled me in that direction, because you were like, why aren't you acknowledging this aspect of yourself? And I'm like, because it's woo. And you were like, take that label out, and that
Yes,
goes back to that
please.
brainwashing, right?
Yeah.
Because we, outside of even the oral history aspect, we are also brainwashed to think that what we experienced in our history, what our ancestors experienced, wasn't actually the truth, that what was written in these books by not us was the truth.
That's right.
And that's what happened in my case. And of course, science being as, in the Western world, being as whitewashed as it is, the idea of all of this was just so woo that, you were the one that was like, come on now. So I'm humbled that I get to be a part of this, on a part of this journey with you. For me, what I bring in is most of my teachers who've taught me this only speak in Hindi, Telugu, Sanskrit, or Indian languages. So they can't communicate with all of us, but they can through me, because I can understand them and
Come
I
on,
can
Pills and
communicate
Vessel.
to you.
I mean, let me just love on you for like a second and like really fully acknowledge you. They can only speak through you. Isn't that what this work is about?
Yep.
Because we have the opportunity to be what our ancestors could not, to speak what they could not. And like I said, could meet certain death for practicing and speaking. And India was colonized. So I mean, I don't even have to regurgitate the history back to you because you get it, but it's like I just really want you to feel it in your body. How powerful. Because there are only things that I can say. And as women, there are only things that you can say when you look back at your own family pathos, when you really get into the silencing.
Absolutely. And historically, even in India, much of the stuff that I talk to you about, or will be talking about in the course and, in my offering and everything, women weren't allowed to even say these words. But my gurus, my teachers, they're all men. They're all men. And they actually acknowledged the fact that I am a woman coming into this space and breaking that mold, more so than anything, because even in India right now, there aren't enough of my generation or the next generation wanting to do this work. And so even my teachers and gurus understand that unless people like me step up to take on this work, I don't want my child to learn about my culture from a white person. No. As if we want to call it petty, sure, let's call it petty, but it's the reality. I don't, if she learns about my culture, if she wants to learn about chakras, if she wants to learn about the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and all of these ancient scriptures, which have predated many Christian writings, I want it to come from someone from within the culture who understands the nuances. So for me, that's why this was important. And when my teachers saw that, they understood that I was going to be a powerful voice for them to affect the next generation. And I was actually empowering them in a way that they could not empower themselves, because no one is willing to listen to them anymore. But here I am coming in with like my Western fashion sense and everything. And of course I got a pretty face, so everyone wants to listen to me. And I'm like, let's use it for good. Let's use it to put something forth that actually is meaningful. So
what a great use of privilege. Because I think that's the other thing too, is that we hear the words white privilege and we get a rub, we bristle, and it's like, how do I have we all have areas of privilege. And I think instead of looking at it as a derogatory term, let's look at it. This is where I get to influence. Here is where I get to use my voice to help usher and move our collective forward.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, yeah, you nailed it. Like, so for me, that's what it is, right? So as parting words, I would say like exactly what you said. All of us have privilege. all of us have our struggles, no doubt.
That's right.
All of us get to take personal accountability because we have that privilege, you know, and using that privilege and personal accountability, we are in a space where we can shine light on so many of these teachers whose names and voices and histories have been erased from what has been written.
Oh, now that is true and magnificent power. And that is how we can create just, equitable, fair, power sharing dynamics that really do heal and move us forward. So I'm so grateful that you joined me today so that
Yeah.
we get a taste of what is going to happen in this course, in this coursework. And so wherever you are on your journey, we're inviting you in.
Yeah.
On Monday, we'll be doing an even deeper with another guest coach. So Ellen Chamberlain, Black, femme, queer, to talk about compassionate copy. And I hope you all even look at the way this course is set up. This is power with. I know that there are areas that I am not necessarily the end. I know I'm not, and I don't have to be, but I can call on my sisterhood and their areas of genius to come in and again create this soulful container, soulful container of healing and reconciliation so that we can move forward. And as leaders, you know, I'm speaking to our feminine leaders out here who are committed to doing this work. I know that you may be tired and I know that you may be fatigued, but sis, you're going to have to dig into the same spirit that carried my ancestors through. I don't care what name you call it, but I'm telling you to tap in. So for me, it's the indwelling Christ that lives within me, the Shekinah glory. That's the feminine, the personification of the feminine. Look, tap into it, get into it, because that's how Dr. AJ's people got through it. This is this is how my ancestors got through it, because it's not by might and it's not by intellect. We are talking about hard work, and again, colonialization showing its face again, to think that you can think your way through it. This is soul work. It's in your bones and in your heart. You got to heart your way through this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what a concept, right?
I love that.
But it's true, because I mean, and I geek out on this, is that the heart has, you know, the same neurological capabilities as the brain, if not more, has the same neurons to think and think clearer here. But our educational system only wants us to focus here, and that authority is somewhere outside of us.
Because it's, we could get into the neuro.
Yeah, we could get.
I actually have a course on this, talking about top down, bottom up.
Come on, sis.
All of it. Because I'm like, yeah, and you're absolutely right. And you know, I was going to save this for like the actual course, but I'm going to drop this nugget
Come on, drop it now. Drop it.
If none of this still convinces you, think about this. Your legacy. Do you want to be one of those erased names and voices? Or do you want to be remembered for the impact that you've had? Because if you do want to be remembered, then you got to pay it backward by pulling all of those people out of history and helping us remember them so we can remember you.
Woo. Okay. The doors of the church are now open. You didn't preach the whole, like, we've been here for a little over 30 minutes. And this is like, talk about mic drop moment. So before I start speaking in tongues over here, Jesus, I should have done behind that.
I know.
Yeah, no, we're going, listen, we have to go there.
Yeah.
We honestly, because we're at a point, because I'm tired of Black bodies dropping. I'm tired of babies being in cages at our borders. I am tired of not having humanity fully recognized, even in our educational systems. I mean, we can go on with the things. And so instead of talking about it, we just got to be about it. And if we're going to be effective leaders, and our children, they watch everything that we do. And this generation, even more so, because they will pick out everything that you do wrong. But you're, and you know what? We can't dispute. You know what, baby? You're right. Yeah.
I get a daily dose of that with my
Yeah, right. I'm sure Walls is always reminding you, Mom.
you just did it. Oh gosh.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So please join this container. I'm putting a link here for you to sign up and join. And if you register today, you will ensure that you get a one-on-one session with yours truly to really get into the work that you want to be doing, to really examine, the shadowy pieces and confront, like, this isn't lightweight work, because if it was easy, everyone would do this. And even in movement, it's never the multitudes. I mean, we look at the mall rather, of Dr. King and think like, oh wow, he's got all these thousands. It didn't start out that way. All movements are very small, got a small nucleus, and I'll work with you to really pull your voice forward. And in this group, like I said, we've got accountability, and we will be working on key issues. We'll be talking about ICE. We'll be talking about what it really means to defund the police. We're talking about how we can be better advocates to the missing and abducted Indigenous women, how you can be a better ally to the LGBTQIA plus community. And I'm talking about over the next 3 months. That's a lot can happen in 12 weeks
Mm-hmm.
to create some serious systemic change. And I cannot express, I mean, what tighter community than to have these three amazing, in addition to myself, like, seriously, who are going to be here to help fortify you and guide you through. So I can't wait, sis. This is going to be amazing. And I'm looking forward to all of it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, yeah. So tag a friend on this post right now. If you're catching the replay, you can go ahead and comment replay, but bring a friend in, bring someone forward, because we just heal, and as women, we do so much better in community. So let's do it.
Create a watch party.
Create a watch party. Come on, sis. Create a watch party for this video. So reach out to me, DM me. I'll be around. But let's sign up today so that you can get this additional love seat coaching from myself, and we can really look at what your 2021 is going to be like, because we can't wait. Our humanity can't wait.
Oh, and as for my offering,
yes, your offering
done, I will throw a link in the comments. But I don't do energy work practice in the course of my work. What I do, and what I can offer to you, is truly Vedic perspectives of this, so that I'm giving you a way out of cultural appropriation into cultural appreciation, because I'm getting it from the source and you're getting it from me. And all I'm doing is translating that into English, not the meaning, just the words. So all of the education, 8 modules, and then a live group coaching session to answer any questions. That's all it is. I'll drop the link in there, and please feel free to take advantage of it, because again, we want you to shine. We want you to be brilliant, and we want us to uplift each other, and do it in an ethical, fair, just way, so that we can all sleep better at night.
That's right. That's right. And really give meaning to the suffering and the anguish of our ancestors, of those who were pioneering through this. I mean, we still practice, right? I mean, we know what persecution, particularly if you're in the Christian faith, the early church was being persecuted. So lives of blood was spilled in martyrdom, so that we can honor them properly. We can speak freely now.
Yeah.
Let's give the proper attribution. Dr. AJ, I'm just like, sis.
Can we start like tomorrow?
Right. I'm like, come on, sis. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited and fired up. And I hope that you all too. I dropped the link. Sign up for this course. Book today. And we even have 3 easy payments for this course. That's how committed I am to this work. and let's get started. Let's make this happen.
Yep.
Dr. AJ, we can't wait to have you in on this course. Oh, thank you so much. And we'll keep it moving. All right, Dr. AJ, I'll see you soon, sis.
See you soon.
All right. All right.